Right, well, habits formation is always opposed by entropy. Habits have always staying power, but only up to a point. Their failure is attributed to the stubborn feature of the fallen world. You get on a bike, you learn how to ride a bike at a young age, and you never touch it again for 20 years. Well, it's just like riding a bike, right? Well, sure, you can get back on that bike. You could probably pedal for a little bit, but you're still going to be wobbly. The handlebars are going to go back and forth. And I definitely don't know that by sheer experience, but I hear that's what happens.
Yeah.
And eventually it self corrects, and you have to kind of learn how to ride again. And that type of entropy, the breaking down of things, is he's saying is the product of what happens in this fallen world. As members of the physical world, human lives are subject to the same conditions that the material world is subject. Chief among these is entropy. Entropy is the tendency of things to become more random and disordered, and that's why evolution doesn't work. I mean, he doesn't say that here, but I'm
Right.
I'm putting that in here.
There you go. Yeah. And so he says we live in an anthropic world. To a large extent, human living is a matter of coping with entropy that's around us, right? We clean the room, we repair the machine, we rewire the toy, we lubricate the engine, we tune the guitar, we reheat our cold coffee. In each instance, we are adding energy to the system to lessen or postpone the effects of entropy. And so, in our entropy coping existence, he tells us, we have an ally in the fact that systems are nested, right? He says that he stands outside the mini system of the wind up toy, for instance, and can add energy to that system by winding up the toy. The Earth as a whole is a macro system that receives a constant injection of energy from outside itself, from our sun. So without the sun, everything on Earth would have run down long, long ago.
Yeah, that helps. Well, in addition to the gift of sunshine that makes the crops grow without the farmer or without the farmers knowing how, entropy is a slow enemy and can be delayed by another phenomenon of creation. Newton tells us that something in motion tends to stay in motion, but an object wants to and would stay in motion were it not for some slow drag of entropy. Physicists call this tendency momentum.
Right. All right. And so now momentum is what works against entropy. And so he's going to explain this for us. He says, since human beings belong to the material world, it's not surprising to learn that there are human analogs to momentum as well as entropy. And he says what he's calling habits
Mm-hmm.
then are on the side of momentum. The fact that we can form habits is an enormous gift from our creator.
Yeah. I always think of trains. You know, you see the wheels spinning, at least on the older ones, and you see a lot of smoke, and you're expecting it to take right off. Again, this is before magnetism and electric rail, but it's that slow chug chug before it choo choos out, and so that building up of momentum is slow, but it's progressing. It's progressing slower, but more quicker, and eventually you're running at full speed until you stop, and then you have to add what energy back into the wheels, and then keep going from there. While entropy in the human world shows itself in the difficulties we face retaining our learning and keeping skills from going rusty. So one of the reasons why we should all homeschool our children, because then we remember all the things that we forgot that we knew uh, back in the day.
So we're learning as well. Go figure, right?
boy, boy, it's almost like that might help all of society and not just the future generations. But I digress. Entropy also affects our relationships. A close friendship that is left unattended for weeks on end will slowly cease to be a close friendship. And I think that's a pretty unanimous type of experience from all of us. But there are those friends that we do have where we can come back, 2 months, 3 months after not talking to each other for whatever reason, life or have you, and it's falling back in.
Yeah.
But
It's
it's
kind of like
always
riding a bike, right? You just, yeah,
yeah,
you're right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you do the small talk, and then you start talking about uh, government conspiracy theories from there, and then you're off back to normal. Maybe that's just my friendships, but yeah. In addition to causing friction between friends, entropy also hinders human virtue formation. obviously it's easier to fall into a bad habit than it is to form a good one. Again, the fallen nature of humanity shows that time and time again. That we use different terms, fall versus form, indicates that the playing field is tipped against character development. If character is to improve, it will take a regular, repeated, and even constant injection of energy. And I do have to say, too, going back to story formation, some of the best characters that we have are always struggling against that characteristic. Join the crowd, become the bad guy, do the bad thing for the right reason, or take the easy route. And I think we tend to overall like characters that go against that and form that good character nature. And again, there's probably a reason that we enjoy those stories is because first of all it's harder, but also we kind of want to see ourselves in those characters, and so we also can be inspired to form our habits even from these characters that are fictitious on a page.
Right. And so he tells us that even the most stringent habits have a failure rate. In fact, a habit in one set of conditions may not hold firmly if one simply changes the context. And so, as a theologian, he indicates that he might prefer to use the term sin to entropy, right? And so the point is the same, whatever the term. Entropy opposes any and every attempt we undertake to do good. All right, but we are assisted, he tells us, by a long list of gifts. Taken together, we call these gifts God's grace. And it is grace that we can learn and form habits. It's grace that we are raised by others. We learn to call family. It's grace that we receive adequate nourishment while our newborn brains were developing. And it's grace that we were educated by teachers with sound learning, right? So all those graces, inputs to us, helps us in our formation.
Mhm. And a lot of those key terms that he used there should call to mind familiar Bible passages to all of us.